The plastic county seal snapped in Travis Cole's hand with a sharp crack that echoed across the gas station lot. Rain started falling harder a second later. Fat drops hissed against hot diesel engines. Travis lifted the metal valve handle halfway and grinned toward his livestream camera like he had just won something. "Look at him now," he said. Big man finally scared. The generator trailer gave off a low mechanical whine behind me. Wrong pressure. Wrong angle. The hospital backup systems uphill were sensitive equipment. Even one bad fuel feed could shut down the emergency transfer cycle. I stepped closer. "Slow. Careful. Take your hand off that valve." Travis smirked. "Or what?" I did not answer. The biker near the pump laughed too loudly. Nervous laughter. His eyes kept flicking toward the storm clouds rolling over the ridge. Thunder moved low through the mountains. Emma stayed frozen near the diner door, one hand gripping a tray against her chest. The little boy by the ice machine had not moved either. He stared at the trailer like he understood more than the adults. Travis twisted the valve another inch. A warning chirp came from the trailer control box. Red light. Then another. I heard the cooling fans kick unevenly inside the unit. My jaw tightened. "That system feeds St. Mercy Hospital," I said quietly. "You damage it, people lose power tonight." Travis shrugged. Not my problem. But his livestream comments had changed now. A few viewers were asking questions. Somebody typed hospital. Another wrote, "Call the sheriff." Travis saw it. His smile faded for half a second before he lifted the camera higher. "This clown is bluffing." The biker by my truck spat near my boots. "You hear that? Bluffing." I watched Travis carefully. White male. Mid-30s. Too confident in public. Too eager for attention. Men like him always needed witnesses. That made them sloppy. A county siren wailed faintly somewhere down the valley. Not close yet, but coming. Travis heard it too. He lowered the phone slightly. "You call somebody. County dispatch already knows where I am." Rainwater rolled down my sleeves. Cold against old scars beneath the fabric. The storm smell pulled. Memories I did not ask for. Wet metal. Rotors. Burning wires. I pushed the thoughts back down before they settled. One of the bikers climbed onto my truck steps and slapped the side mirror. "This rig worth much?" he asked. His boot scraped against the cab beside the faded military parking decal still stuck near the window corner. Small decal. Navy blue. Most people ignored it. This biker leaned closer. Then paused. His forehead tightened slightly. Tiny hook. Tiny hesitation. "Travis," he muttered. "You see this?" Travis barely looked. "Who cares?" He twisted the valve farther. The generator coughed once. Then the whole trailer hummed wrong. Deep. Uneven. Inside the diner, every light flickered. Glass rattled overhead. Emma looked toward the ceiling. Someone inside yelled. The little boy stepped backward fast. My phone buzzed again from the puddle near the curb. Still working somehow. County dispatch flashed across the cracked screen. Travis noticed it this time. So did the others. Another biker shifted uneasily and lowered his beer. "Maybe we should just let him go," he said under his breath. Travis snapped toward him immediately. "Nobody leaves until I say so." There it was. Not toughness. Control. The kind men use when they are afraid of looking weak in front of their own crowd. The siren grew louder now. Headlights flashed far down the road through heavy rain. Travis stared toward them. Then back at me. "You set me up?" he asked. I finally looked him directly in the eye. "You touched county equipment during an emergency transport." The words landed harder than shouting would have. One biker slowly stepped away from the trailer. Another killed his livestream smile completely. The storm rolled closer over the ridge. Then the hospital lights vanished in the distance. The lights on the ridge blinked out one building at a time. First the outer parking lot. Then the emergency wing. Then the red aviation beacon above St. Mercy Hospital disappeared into the rain like someone had covered it with a hand. Nobody in the gas station lot spoke for almost 3 full seconds. Even Travis looked up at the mountain now. The wind carried a distant alarm through the storm. Thin. Mechanical. Wrong. Emma covered her mouth quietly. The little boy near the ice machine whispered, "Oh no." Travis forced a laugh, but it landed dead. "That is not because of me." I walked past him toward the trailer control box. No fast moves. No anger. The bikers watched carefully now. Their boots scraped wet concrete as they shifted apart. The control panel glowed red beneath the rain. Fuel pressure fault. Cooling interruption. Transfer failure. Exactly what I expected after he forced the valve. I opened the side compartment and checked the emergency bypass lever. Stuck halfway. Travis stepped closer behind me. Fix it. His voice sounded different now. Smaller. I ignored him and pulled my flashlight from the truck cab. White light cut through the ring. Water streamed off the metal housing and down my hands. My fingers moved automatically across the controls. Reset. Manual override. Pressure stabilization. Years ago, I learned how to do this inside darker places than a gas station parking lot. Places where power loss meant body bags by sunrise. The county siren finally reached the lot. A sheriff SUV rolled in hard through puddles and stopped crooked beside the pumps. Deputy Harris climbed out, adjusting his rain jacket with one hand while reaching for his flashlight with the other. He looked tired before he even spoke. Then he saw the trailer. Then the broken county seal hanging loose. His expression changed immediately. What happened here? Nobody answered first. Travis wiped rainwater off his face and pointed at me. This guy was trespassing. Harris looked from Travis to the hospital trailer, then to my truck door with the emergency transport tags. He knew exactly what he was looking at now. The deputy exhaled slowly through his nose. "Marcus," he said quietly, "tell me the generator is still functional." That changed the air again. Travis frowned. "You know him?" I kept working the bypass lever. "Depends what you mean by functional." The deputy cursed under his breath. The bikers exchanged uneasy looks. One slowly backed away toward his motorcycle. Harris noticed immediately. Nobody leaves. Rain hammered the station roof harder now. The diner. Windows glowed weakly from backup power inside. Emma came closer, holding a flashlight from behind the counter. Her shoes splashed through shallow water near the pumps. "Can the hospital still run?" she asked me softly. I checked the pressure gauge again. Needle unstable. Too much air in the line. For a little while. Harris rubbed his forehead. The storm already knocked out county power south of Ridge Creek. St. Mercy switched to emergency reserve 20 minutes ago. Travis swallowed visibly this time. His live stream had stopped. Nobody was laughing anymore. The little boy stared at me while I worked the controls. "You fix things fast," he said quietly. I looked at him for a second. Not always fast enough. The words slipped out before I could stop them. Thunder cracked overhead hard enough to shake the gas station windows. One biker flinched badly at the sound. Combat nerves. Military maybe. Or just fear. I noticed his eyes drift toward my cab again. Toward the faded decal near the window. Navy Special Warfare Veteran. Small letters. Almost washed away by years and weather. His face tightened slowly. "Travis," he murmured again. "I think we seriously messed up." Travis snapped back at him too quickly. "Shut up." But the confidence was gone now. Harris stepped beside me and lowered his voice. "County emergency crews cannot reach the ridge without this trailer." I nodded once. He looked toward the hospital lights missing above the trees. Then at Travis. "Do you have any idea what you just interfered with?" Travis opened his mouth. No sound came out. The generator suddenly coughed again beneath my hand. Then smoke curled from the lower vent. Smoke curled from the lower vent in slow gray ribbons before the generator trailer let out a sharp metallic chirp. Deputy Harris stepped back immediately. One biker cursed under his breath and moved farther from the pumps. Rainwater hissed against the hot vent housing. I grabbed the emergency release latch and dropped to one knee beside the control compartment. The metal burned warm even through the rain. Bad sign. Very bad sign. "What is happening?" Emma asked from behind me. I pulled open the lower panel. A burst of heat rolled into my face, carrying the smell of burnt wiring and overheated coolant. The pressure valve Travis forced open had flooded the bypass line unevenly. Now the backup regulator was choking on air pockets. The trailer lights flickered again. "Hospital reserve is collapsing," I said. Harris looked uphill toward the dark ridge. His jaw tightened hard. "How long?" I checked the gauge again. Needle dropping faster now. "Maybe 15 minutes. Travis stepped toward me with rain dripping off his hair and jacket collar. "Just fix it." I looked up at him slowly. "Move away from the equipment." His face flushed red instantly. Men like Travis never handled calm voices well. He pointed at me like he wanted the old crowd energy back. "Do not talk to me like that in my own town." Harris cut in sharply. "This stopped being your town problem the second you interfered with county emergency infrastructure." That hit harder than Travis expected. His gang stayed silent now. No jokes. No phones raised. One biker quietly climbed off his motorcycle and stared at the dark hospital ridge with both hands tucked into his vest. Another rubbed the back of his neck over and over. Nervous tick. I had seen it before, usually before incoming fire. The little boy edged closer beside Emma. Can people die if the power stays out? Nobody answered him right away. Thunder rolled across the mountains again. The diner lights flickered weakly behind us. Somewhere inside, a coffee machine beeped continuously without stopping. Harris leaned closer to me. Tell me what you need. Finally, somebody asking the right question. I stood and pointed toward the county service gate blinking green across the road. I need clear access uphill. No delays. No roadblocks. And I need everybody away from this trailer. Harris immediately turned toward the bikers. Move your motorcycles now. Travis did not move. You cannot order me around. Harris stepped closer until rainwater dripped off the brim of his hat onto Travis's boots. Actually, tonight I can. Silence spread across the lot again. Even the storm seemed to pause for one strange second. Travis glanced around at his own men. Nobody backed him up this time. That shook him more than Harris's voice ever could. Finally, he jerked his head toward the road. Move the bikes. Engines started one by one. Loud. Uneven. Nervous revving under cold rain. The lane slowly cleared. I climbed into my truck cab and wiped rainwater from the dashboard with my sleeve. The familiar smell of leather, old coffee, and diesel wrapped around me. Grounding smell. Safe smell. My hands rested on the wheel for half a second longer than necessary. The county radio crackled alive beside me. St. Mercy to emergency transport. Repeat. Oxygen support systems unstable. A nurse's voice. Young. Trying not to panic. Static swallowed the rest. Emma heard enough through the open cab door. Her face lost color. My sister works there, she whispered. I nodded once and reached for the ignition. Then paused. Something outside caught my eye. The biker who noticed my military decal earlier stood frozen near the pumps staring into my cab window. Not at me. At the faded photograph clipped beside the visor. For men in desert uniforms. One of them smiling with an arm around my shoulder. The biker's expression changed completely. Recognition. Real recognition. He stepped backward slowly and looked toward Travis with something close to fear. You really do not know who this guy is, he muttered. Travis turned toward him sharply. But the biker was already walking away from the trailer. The diesel engine rumbled alive beneath me with a deep vibration that shook rainwater off the hood. I eased one hand onto the wheel and checked the side mirrors automatically. 3 motorcycles clearing left. Sheriff SUV behind me. Service gate still green. But the trailer alarms had not stopped. Fast beeping now. Desperate beeping. The county radio crackled again. Emergency transport, respond. A different voice this time. Older man. Breathing hard. Cardiac wing running on limited reserve. Static swallowed the rest. I shifted the truck into gear slowly. 40 tons of steel and failing equipment rolled forward inches at a time. Travis stood near the pumps with rain pouring down his face, watching the trailer leave like something valuable had just slipped beyond his reach. The biker who recognized the photograph kept staring at me through the windshield. He looked pale now. He stepped toward Travis quickly and grabbed his arm. I am serious, he hissed. I know that face. Travis jerked free immediately. Pride again. Always pride first. You are acting crazy. I pulled the truck toward the county gate while Harris walked beside my cab through ankle-deep water. Road washed out near mile marker 7. He shouted over the storm. You will have maybe 1 lane. I nodded once. 1 lane was enough. Usually. Emma ran from the diner, holding a small flashlight and a paper bag wrapped tight against the rain. Marcus. I lowered the passenger window halfway. Cold air rushed inside, carrying wet pine and diesel smoke. She handed me the bag. Sandwiches. Water bottle. Her fingers trembled slightly from the cold. Or maybe from the ridge going dark above us. My sister's name is Leah, she said quietly. 3rd floor respiratory wing. I looked at her for 1 second longer than before, then nodded again. I will get there. She studied my face carefully after I said it, like she was trying to understand why the words sounded less like comfort and more like a promise. The little boy stood beside her holding the flashlight with both hands. Mister, he asked softly, were you really in the military? Harris glanced toward me immediately. So did the biker near Travis. Rain hammered the roof of my cab while the engine idled deep and steady beneath us. I could have ignored the question. Probably should have. Instead, I reached up and flipped down the old visor photograph. For younger men stared back from sunburned desert light. Dust on our boots. Rifles hanging loose. One missing now. Maybe more than one. Long time ago, I said. The little boy looked at the picture carefully. You save people? The storm seemed quieter for half a second after that question. I looked past him toward the dark hospital ridge. I tried. Harris stepped back from the truck door and touched the side of the cab twice. Signal to move. I rolled toward the county gate slowly, trailer swaying behind me over wet pavement. The green light reflected across puddles like broken glass. Then the radio burst alive again. Loud this time. Panicked voices overlapping. Backup oxygen failed on east side. We lost elevator access. Transport team stuck on level 2. My grip tightened on the wheel before I forced my fingers loose again. Slow breath in. Slow breath out. Rain blurred the windshield while the wipers slapped back and forth in heavy rhythm. Ahead, the county road disappeared into dark pine forest climbing toward the ridge. No streetlights. No traffic. Just storm wind bending the trees sideways. Harris leaned into the open window one last time. Marcus. His voice lowered. Serious now. County emergency crews are still 20 minutes out. I looked at him without speaking. He swallowed once before finishing. Right now that hospital is depending on you alone. The words settled heavily inside the cab. Not fear. Wait. Different thing entirely. Behind Harris, Travis suddenly shouted through the rain. This is not over. Nobody reacted to him this time. Not even his own gang. The biker who recognized me had already started backing away toward the diner parking lot. His eyes stayed fixed on the faded photograph clipped above my dashboard. Then he saw the Trident insignia stitched onto my old duffel bag beside the passenger seat. The county gate lifted slowly through sheets of rain while my headlights cut into the pine road ahead. Mud splashed against the trailer wheels as I eased the truck uphill. The storm swallowed the gas station behind me within seconds. No more neon. No more voices. Just darkness, engine noise, and the constant slap of windshield wipers fighting heavy rain. The county radio hissed beside me. Emergency transport, update status. I picked up the mic without taking my eyes off the road. Moving towards St. Mercy now. Static cracked. Then the older dispatcher answered again. You are our only active route. I set the mic down quietly. Those words stayed in the cab long after the transmission ended. The mountain road narrowed hard after mile marker 2. One side rock wall. One side steep drop hidden by black forest and rain. The trailer swayed behind me every time the tires hit standing water. I could feel the unstable pressure through the wheel. Not normal vibration. Sick vibration. The kind machines make before failure. I eased off the throttle slightly. Slow and steady mattered more than speed now. Lightning flashed above the ridge for one sharp second. White light exploded across wet trees and guardrails. Then darkness returned immediately. My eyes adjusted fast. They always did. Another old habit. The radio crackled again with overlapping voices from the hospital. Somebody crying in the background. Metal doors slamming. A woman repeating room numbers too quickly. Portable oxygen reserves down to 11 minutes. 11 minutes. I checked the dashboard clock automatically. Rain hammered the roof harder. The smell inside the cab changed as the trailer overheated behind me. Burnt coolant drifting through the vents now. My left hand tightened slightly against the steering wheel before I forced it loose again. Calm hands. Always calm hands. A memory hit me anyway. Desert heat. Smoke. A convoy stalled beside broken concrete barriers. Somebody screaming for a medic through radio static. I blinked once and pushed the image away before it rooted itself deeper. The truck climbed another curve. Then my headlights caught something ahead. A fallen pine tree stretched halfway across the road near mile marker 4. Fresh break. Needles still green. Rainwater rushed around the trunk in fast muddy streams. I slowed immediately and checked the shoulder distance through the mirrors. Tight fit. Very tight. The trailer alarm chirped again behind me. Faster this time. I climbed out into cold rain with my flashlight and boots splashing ankle deep into runoff water. Wind hit hard against my jacket. The pine tree blocked most of the lane, but not all. Maybe 18 inches clearance near the edge. Maybe less. I walked the shoulder carefully with the flashlight beam low. Mud sliding under my boots. The drop beside the road disappeared into black emptiness. One mistake here, and the whole trailer rolled down the mountain. Thunder cracked overhead again. Closer now. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Emma. I answered while studying the road edge. Did you make it? She asked immediately. Diner. Noise behind her sounded distant and nervous. I looked at the fallen tree, then at the unstable shoulder. Working on it. She hesitated. Leah texted me. Half the third floor is dark. Her voice stayed steady, but barely. Rain streamed off my hood and down my neck, while I measured the trailer clearance again with the flashlight beam. Tell her backup power is coming. Silence on the line for half a second. Then softly, you really believe that? I looked uphill toward the invisible hospital beyond the storm. I have to. The call ended. I climbed back into the cab and shifted into low gear. The truck crawled forward inch by inch toward the fallen pine. Mirror left. Mirror right. Trailer edge. Mud shoulder. No wasted movement. No panic. Just distance and control. The right side tires slid slightly near the drop. The trailer alarm screamed louder behind me. I corrected slowly and kept moving. Rain blurred the mirrors almost instantly. Then something flashed behind the truck in my rear camera feed. Headlights. Multiple motorcycles climbing the county road fast. The motorcycle headlights bounced wildly through the rain behind me as the truck crept past the fallen pine tree. 3 bikes. Maybe 4. Hard to tell through the storm and mud spray. My trailer tire slid again near the edge of the shoulder before finally gripping asphalt. I eased the rig fully past the tree and stopped for half a second to straighten the trailer. The motorcycles kept climbing fast. Too fast for that road. I checked the mirrors again. Travis led them. Of course he did. His headlight cut brighter than the others because he kept riding the center line like the mountain belonged to him. The trailer alarm screamed once more behind the cab. Higher pitch now. The cooling system was losing the fight. I shifted gears and pushed uphill again. Rain hammered the windshield so hard it sounded like gravel. The county radio burst alive. Emergency transport. Oxygen support failing on pediatric floor. A child crying somewhere behind the transmission froze the cab colder than the storm outside. I pressed the radio button once. 5 minutes out. Not true. More like 10 if the road stayed clear. Longer. If Travis got stupid again. The motorcycles gained on me fast around the next bend. Their engines echoed through the trees in sharp, angry bursts. One bike pulled alongside my trailer briefly before dropping back from the spray. Another flashed high beams directly into my mirrors. Old intimidation trick. Distract the driver. Make him drift. I kept my eyes on the lane markers and counted breaths instead. In through the nose. Out slow. Same rhythm they drilled into us years ago before nighttime insertions over black water. The memory came fast and left faster. Rotor noise. Salt wind. Green lights blinking inside a helicopter cabin. I pushed it away before the past settled too deep again. Ahead, the mountain road narrowed near a washed-out section lined with Orange County barriers. Mud and runoff covered half the asphalt. 1 lane only. I slowed automatically. The motorcycles did not. Travis roared up beside my cab and slammed his palm against the passenger door. His face looked wild under the rain. Pull over. I kept driving. He hit the door again harder. You hear me? Lightning flashed across the ridge and lit his expression bright, white for one violent second. Not confidence anymore. Desperation. The kind men get when control slips through their fingers publicly. Another biker pulled close behind him. The one who recognized my military photograph. He looked terrified now. He shouted something at Travis, but the storm swallowed most of it. I caught only 3 words clearly. Leave him alone. Travis ignored him completely. He pointed toward the dark ridge ahead. You think driving up there fixes anything? The truck climbed another steep curve. Water rushed across the pavement from the hillside in fast silver streams. The trailer fishtailed slightly before stabilizing again. Every muscle in my shoulders tightened automatically. The county radio crackled again. More static now. Emergency ventilators manually cycling. We lost hallway lighting. Transport team trapped between floors. Then another voice cut through. Female. Exhausted. If power does not stabilize soon, we start losing patience. Silence followed. Heavy silence. Even Travis heard that one. Through my open window, his expression shifted for half a heartbeat. Guilt maybe. Or maybe fear of consequences finally catching up. Then pride buried it again. He revved his engine louder and surged ahead of my truck toward the washed-out lane. Wrong move. Very wrong move. The shoulder near the barriers had already collapsed halfway down the slope. Rainwater carved fresh cracks through the mud every few seconds. I saw it immediately in my headlights. Travis did not. The biker behind him screamed his name over the storm just as Travis's front tire hit the unstable edge. Travis's motorcycle jerked sideways the instant the front tire hit the collapsing shoulder. Mud exploded beneath the wheel. The bike tilted dangerously toward the slope while loose gravel rattled down into darkness below. The biker behind him slammed his brakes hard and nearly lost control trying to avoid him. I hit my air horn once. Deep. Loud. The sound shook through the trees and cut straight through the storm. Travis looked up toward my cab with real fear on his face for the first time all night. His back tire spun uselessly against slick mud near the broken edge. Another few inches and both him and the motorcycle would slide down the mountain. I stopped the truck immediately. The trailer alarms shrieked behind me in furious bursts. Steam curled from the vent housing into cold rain. Every second mattered now. Every second uphill mattered even more. But the road was blocked. Travis tried revving harder. Wrong move again. The bike slipped lower toward the edge. Loose dirt collapsed beneath the rear wheel in wet chunks. The biker who recognized my photograph jumped off his motorcycle and shouted, "Stop spinning the tire." Travis ignored him completely. Panic had replaced pride now. Dangerous switch. I grabbed my flashlight and climbed down from the cab into pounding rain. Mud sucked against my boots immediately. The mountain wind carried the sharp smell of wet pine and overheated metal from the failing trailer. Behind me, the county radio kept spitting broken emergency calls through static. Cardiac monitors offline. Manual ventilation teams moving floor to floor. Battery reserve critical. I moved toward Travis slowly, keeping my balance near the washed-out shoulder. He looked at me like he hated needing help from me more than he feared the drop beside him. "Do not touch me," he snapped. I crouched beside the unstable bike and checked the ground. The shoulder was worse than I thought. Water had hollowed out the dirt underneath. Half the lane hung over empty air now. "Shut the engine off," I said calmly. Travis stared at me, breathing hard. Rain streamed down his face and jacket sleeves. For a second, he looked much younger. Just another scared man stuck somewhere he should not have been. "You think I need you?" he muttered. The mountain answered for me. More dirt suddenly broke loose beneath the motorcycle and disappeared into darkness below. Travis froze instantly. I held my hand out once. "Engine off." This time he listened. The bike fell silent except for rain ticking against hot metal. The other bikers stayed back near the road barriers watching without speaking. No cameras now. No live streams. Just storm wind and hospital radio traffic echoing faintly from my truck cab uphill. I grabbed the handlebars carefully and checked the slope angle. Too unstable to pull straight back. Needed leverage. Needed weight distribution. Old calculations returned automatically. Distance. Pressure. Center line. Same thinking. Different battlefield. "When I say move, lean left," I told Travis. He swallowed once and nodded. Together we shifted the motorcycle inch by inch across the mud. Slow. Controlled. No sudden movements. Gravel slid beneath my boots twice before the bike finally reached stable asphalt again. Travis stumbled backward, breathing hard, while I steadied the handlebars one last time. Nobody spoke for several seconds after that. Rain hammered the road between us. The biker who recognized me looked at Travis with disbelief. "He just saved you." Travis wiped mud from his hands angrily and looked away. Some people would rather choke on pride than say thank you. The county radio suddenly burst loud enough for all of us to hear. A woman crying openly now. We lost backup oxygen in pediatric intensive care. Silence hit the mountain hard after that. Transmission. Even the storm seemed quieter for one terrible second. I handed Travis his motorcycle back without a word and turned toward my truck immediately. No time left now. Behind me, Travis finally spoke. Low voice. Almost swallowed by rain. "Why are you still helping people after the way they treat you?" I paused beside the cab door. Water streamed off my jacket sleeves onto the muddy road. I did not look back when I answered. "Because somebody has to." Then the hospital ridge flashed completely black. The ridge ahead vanished into total darkness after the last hospital light died. No parking lamps. No hallway glow. Nothing. Just black mountain rain swallowing the building whole. The county radio erupted instantly with overlapping voices. Nurses shouting room numbers. Somebody calling for flashlights. Somebody praying under their breath. I climbed back into the cab and locked both hands onto the wheel. The trailer alarm screamed nonstop now. Red warning lights flashed across the dashboard and painted the inside of the cab like emergency beacons. I shifted into gear and pushed uphill harder. The engine growled deep beneath me while mud sprayed behind the trailer tires. The bikers stayed back this time. Nobody tried blocking the road anymore. Even Travis remained motionless near the washed-out shoulder, watching my truck disappear into the storm. The mountain road twisted sharply after mile marker 7. Fallen branches scraped the trailer sides with ugly screeching sounds. Water rushed across the asphalt like shallow rivers. I leaned forward slightly, scanning every curve and shadow automatically. My heartbeat stayed calm. Too calm, maybe. That old switch inside me had fully turned on now. Not anger. Focus. Different thing entirely. The radio crackled again. Emergency transport. Pediatric intensive care requesting estimated arrival. I pressed the mic. 3 minutes. A woman exhaled sharply through static after hearing my voice. Relief. Tiny relief. Then another transmission cut through behind her. Manual oxygen almost depleted. The truck climbed the final incline toward St. Mercy. Lightning flashed overhead and revealed the hospital at last. Massive, concrete buildings sitting dark against the ridge like an abandoned ship in rough water. Emergency crews waved flashlights near the ambulance entrance. Nurses moved between vehicles carrying battery lanterns and portable tanks through pounding rain. One look told me everything. They were out of time. I swung the truck toward the emergency loading bay while county workers rushed toward the trailer before I even fully stopped. Cooling system is unstable, I shouted through the open window. Do not force the pressure feed. A soaked technician nodded fast while 2 others scrambled for tools and emergency hoses. The hospital generator room doors stood open beneath harsh portable floodlights. Steam rolled from inside the building into cold rain. I killed the engine and climbed down from the cab. My knees protested immediately after hours behind the wheel. Age always collected payment eventually. The emergency entrance burst open suddenly. A nurse ran outside carrying a little girl wrapped in blankets toward an ambulance parked nearby. The child wore an oxygen mask too large for her small face. Her mother followed, crying openly under the storm. The sound cut straight through the noise around me. For one dangerous second, another memory tried forcing itself forward. Dust. Smoke. A little boy in another country gasping for air while generators failed around us. I shut the memory down hard before it rooted itself deeper. Marcus. I turned toward the voice. Emma stood near the ambulance bay, soaked head to toe. Her diner apron was gone. Hospital visitor badge hanging around her neck now. Leah made it downstairs, she said quickly. But they lost power to half the respiratory wing. Relief touched her face for half a heartbeat before fear swallowed it again. Can they fix the generator? I looked toward the county crew swarming around the trailer. One technician slammed a panel shut, while another shouted numbers over the storm. Bad signs. Too rushed. Too loud. Harris's sheriff SUV slid into the hospital lot behind us with mud spraying from the tires. He climbed out breathing hard and looked at the dark building towering above us. Tell me we are not too late. Nobody answered him immediately. Then one of the county technicians suddenly yelled from beside the trailer. We have pressure collapse in the backup line. Another alarm exploded from the control system. Louder than before. Faster. The technician looked directly at me through heavy rain. Panic clear across his face now. Sir, he shouted, we need someone who understands this system right now. Then every emergency light around the loading bay flickered at once. The emergency lights above the loading bay flickered twice more before stabilizing into a weak yellow glow. Rain poured off the hospital roof in heavy streams while county technicians crowded around the trailer with soaked manuals and shaking flashlights. One of them nearly dropped a pressure gauge trying to reconnect the bypass line. The regulator will not hold, he shouted over the alarms. We are losing output every minute. I moved toward the trailer immediately. Emma caught my sleeve for half a second. Marcus. Her voice sounded smaller now. Tired. Frightened. Can this still work? I looked past her through the open emergency doors. Nurses pushed portable ventilators down dim hallways lit only by battery lanterns. Shadows moved across the walls like a ship sinking underwater. Maybe, I answered honestly. Then I climbed onto the trailer platform beside the county crew. Hot steam rolled from the control housing and fogged my flashlight beam instantly. Burnt coolant smell. Electrical heat. Familiar smell. Too familiar. One technician pointed at the cracked pressure valve Travis had forced open back at the gas station. The bypass chamber flooded air into the reserve line, he said quickly. Now the secondary regulator keeps collapsing. I wiped rainwater from my face and studied the panel. He was right, but not completely right. The pressure collapse was only part of it. My eyes moved lower toward the emergency coolant feed. There. Hairline fracture near the coupling mount. Small enough most people would miss it. Big enough to kill the whole system under full hospital load. Who tightened this line? I asked. The technicians looked at each other silently. Nobody answered. Minnie Hook. Somebody already knew. This trailer had problems before tonight. Harris stepped beside the platform with rain dripping off his sheriff jacket. Can you save it? The alarm screamed again before I answered. Fast pulse now. Critical warning. I opened the lower maintenance compartment and reached inside carefully. Heat rolled across my hands immediately. I can stabilize it temporarily, I said. But somebody needs to reroute emergency power manually floor by floor inside the hospital. Harris grabbed his radio instantly. Emma looked toward the dark emergency wing through the rain. Leah is still up there. I glanced at her only briefly. Then they need to move fast. The technicians backed away while I worked the damaged coupling loose with both hands. Hot metal burned against my palms, even through the rain. Water dripped from my sleeves into the open control housing. Every movement had to stay controlled. No panic. No wasted motion. The younger technician beside me stared carefully at my hands while I worked. You done this before? He asked quietly. I tightened the bypass clamp 1/4 turn. Something like it. Lightning flashed overhead hard enough to shake the loading bay windows. For one sharp second the whole scene turned white. Rain. Steam. Nurses running stretchers through darkness. Harris shouting into his radio. Emma holding the emergency door open for patients entering from ambulances. Then darkness folded back over everything again. My hands kept moving automatically. The younger technician watched me closer now. You move like military, he said. I said nothing. He noticed the old scar running across my wrist when my sleeve shifted back. His expression changed slightly. Recognition maybe. Or understanding. The trailer alarms suddenly stopped. Total silence hit the loading bay for half a heartbeat. Then the backup turbines inside the generator housing roared alive with a deep mechanical hum. Stable hum this time. Power surged through the hospital all at once. Windows across 3 floors flickered back to life, one by one through the rain. Somebody inside the emergency wing cheered loudly. Another nurse burst into tears near the ambulance entrance. Emma covered her mouth with both hands and looked upward toward the restored respiratory floor windows. Harris exhaled so hard it almost sounded painful. But I stayed focused on the pressure gauge. The needle still trembled. Too unstable. Temporary fix only. Maybe 30 minutes. Maybe less. Then the younger technician beside me leaned closer toward the cracked coupling mount and went pale. Sir, he whispered carefully, this damage was not an accident. Rain drummed against the trailer roof while the younger technician kept staring at the cracked coupling mount like it had just spoken to him. The emergency turbines hummed steadily behind us now, feeding weak power back into the hospital, but the pressure gauge still shook under the red line. Temporary stability. Fragile stability. I wiped grease and rainwater from my hands with an old rag from the tool compartment. What do you mean not an accident? Harris asked immediately. The technician leaned closer toward the fracture and aimed his flashlight carefully along the metal edge. Look here. Tiny grooves cut across the inside of the mount. Clean grooves. Intentional grooves. Not storm damage. Not pressure fatigue. Tool marks. Harris's face hardened instantly. Somebody tampered with county equipment before tonight. Emma looked from the damaged coupling to me slowly. You knew something felt wrong back at the gas station. I did not answer right away. The storm wind carried another burst of ambulance sirens from lower roads climbing toward the hospital. More patients arriving. More pressure on failing systems. I knew the trailer should not have collapsed that fast, I said finally. Harris grabbed his radio and stepped aside immediately, already calling county dispatch for maintenance records and security logs. The younger technician still looked unsettled. Who would sabotage a hospital generator? Nobody answered him. Because nobody there wanted to say the obvious thing out loud yet. Somebody had known the storm was coming. Somebody had known this trailer would be needed tonight. The emergency doors burst open behind us again. Leah rushed outside wearing dark blue scrubs and carrying an empty oxygen canister against her chest. Her hair stuck wet against her face from sweat and rain. Emma ran toward her instantly. The sisters hugged hard beneath the loading bay lights before Leah pulled back, breathing fast. "Respiratory floor stabilized for now," she said. "But the reserve systems are still flickering." Her eyes shifted toward me, then toward the trailer. "You are the driver?" I nodded once. Leah studied me for a second longer than expected. "They said you kept this thing alive on the mountain road." "Barely." She looked toward the dark ridge beyond the hospital parking lot. "Barely is enough tonight." Minnie Hook. Before I could answer, another county vehicle slid hard into the loading bay through rain and mud. Utility department truck. 2 men jumped out carrying emergency equipment cases and battery lamps. One of them froze the second he saw me standing beside the trailer. Heavy-set white man. Mid-50s. Gray beard. County patch stitched crooked on his jacket. His eyes narrowed immediately. Recognition. Real recognition. "Marcus Reed," he said quietly. I knew the voice before the face fully settled in my memory. Carl Bennett. Former Navy mechanic. Different war. Same desert heat. Same smoke-filled nights working beside generators under mortar alarms years ago. Carl looked from me to the damaged coupling mount and went pale beneath the loading bay lights. "Who authorized this trailer deployment?" he asked sharply. Harris walked back toward us holding the radio. "County Emergency Services." Carl shook his head hard. "No. This unit was flagged unsafe 3 days ago." Silence hit the loading bay again. Rain hammered metal roofs overhead, while every person there processed the words differently. Emma looked confused. Leah looked angry. Harris looked ready to arrest somebody. I looked back at the trembling pressure gauge. "Unsafe how?" Carl swallowed once before answering. "Maintenance found deliberate scoring inside the regulator system." He pointed directly toward the damaged coupling mount. "Same kind of marks." The younger technician cursed softly under his breath. Harris lowered his radio slowly. "You are telling me somebody sabotaged this trailer before the storm even started?" Carl nodded once. "And somebody cleared it back into service anyway." Thunder cracked across the ridge again hard enough to shake the ambulance bay windows. Then the pressure gauge needle suddenly dropped lower than before. The pressure gauge dropped sharply again, sliding below the safe threshold in a slow trembling motion that made every technician freeze at once. The backup turbines inside the generator housing shifted pitch immediately, struggling to compensate for unstable flow. A warning tone erupted from the control panel. Not a loud alarm this time. A low continuous tone that meant system-wide failure was close. Carl stepped forward instantly, pointing at the gauge. "That drop is not normal degradation," he said. "That is controlled interference." Harris turned toward him sharply. "Explain." Carl wiped rainwater from his beard and leaned closer to the open maintenance panel. "Someone is remotely forcing pressure imbalance through the bypass network. That is why it failed earlier and why it is failing again." Emma took a step back slowly, her eyes widening. "You mean someone is actively shutting down the hospital power?" Carl nodded once without hesitation. "Yes." The loading bay suddenly felt colder, even with emergency lights restored. Leah looked toward the hospital building and spoke quietly. "If they are controlling pressure flow, they can cut oxygen at will." Silence followed her words. Heavy silence. Harris immediately raised his radio again, trying to reach county cyber emergency response, but static swallowed half the transmission. The younger technician shook his head. "We do not have remote access logs here. We need physical trace." Carl pointed at the cracked coupling again. "Start there." That fracture was not random. It was engineered to create instability under load. I moved closer to the panel and studied the system deeper than before. The coupling was not just damaged. It was weakened in a pattern designed to respond to pressure spikes. Controlled failure points. My hands tightened slightly without thinking. Whoever did this understood both mechanical systems and emergency response timing. That combination was not common. Harris looked toward me again. "Can you stabilize it long enough for us to isolate the interference source?" I checked the gauge. The needle trembled just above collapse threshold. "Maybe 10 minutes, I said. Carl stepped back immediately. Then we cut external load and switched to manual bypass isolation. Leah shook her head quickly. "If we cut external load, half the hospital goes dark again." Not if we do it in sequence, I replied. Emma watched me closely now. You sound like you have done this before. I did not answer directly. Instead, I reached into the control housing and began adjusting the bypass calibration manually. Each turn had to be exact. Too much pressure reduction would starve the upper floors. Too little would collapse the system entirely. Rainwater dripped from my sleeves into the metal housing while the storm continued pounding the roof above us. Harris stepped closer to Carl. If this was sabotage, who had access? Carl hesitated. Only maintenance contractors and county clearance personnel. The younger technician suddenly spoke up. And emergency transport contractors. Everyone went silent again. That detail changed the air instantly. Emma looked toward me and then toward Harris. Are you saying the truck itself could have been targeted? Carl shook his head slowly. Not the truck. The route. Leah frowned. What does that mean? I finished adjusting the bypass and checked the stabilization response. The needle steadied slightly. Not fixed, but controlled. It means someone knew exactly which vehicle would be carrying critical power tonight, I said. Harris looked uneasy now. That requires inside coordination. A loud metallic groan came from the trailer frame behind us. Everyone turned at once. The younger technician rushed to check the lower pressure line and froze. We are losing stabilization again, he shouted. Something just reactivated the imbalance cycle. The warning tone returned louder than before. Faster. More aggressive. Carl stepped back from the panel slowly. No, he said quietly. It is not reactivating. He looked directly at me. It is responding. Then every light in the loading bay flickered once and went dim for half a second. The emergency lights in the loading bay flickered again, but this time they did not recover immediately. A heavy silence spread across the hospital entrance like a held breath. The generator trailer gave a deep, unstable hum, and the pressure gauge dropped another fraction below safe range. Carl stepped forward fast, his voice sharp. It is responding to something external again. The technician beside him shook his head in disbelief. That is impossible. We are fully isolated. I moved back to the control panel and checked the bypass routing one more time. The system was stable on paper, but unstable in reality. That meant interference was not coming through normal channels. It was coming through timing, through load triggers, through demand cycles. Harris raised his radio again, trying to coordinate with county cyber response, but static swallowed the transmission immediately. We are losing communication integrity, he said tightly. Emma stood near the emergency bay doors, watching nurses move patients between dim hallways and flickering lights. Leah stayed beside her, eyes locked on the respiratory wing windows that kept fading in and out of weak power. If this drops again, Leah said quietly, we lose ventilators. The younger technician slammed his hand against the control housing. We stabilized it. This should not be happening. Carl turned toward me slowly. Unless someone is actively feeding false load signals into the system. That changed everything again. Harris lowered his radio slightly. You are saying someone is triggering collapse on purpose from outside the hospital? Carl nodded once. Yes, and they are timing it with peak demand cycles. My hands paused for half a second over the control panel. That detail mattered. Timing cycles meant understanding hospital flow. It meant knowing when oxygen demand peaked across floors. That level of precision was not random sabotage. It was structured control. Emma looked at me. Can you stop it? I checked the system response again. The needle trembled dangerously near the lower threshold. Not while it is receiving external input, I said. Harris stepped closer. Then we cut the input. Carl shook his head. We cannot. We do not even know the source. The hospital alarms suddenly shifted tone again. A deeper warning tone now. Not system failure. System override risk. Leah stepped back slightly. That sounds worse. The younger technician ran a scan on the diagnostic panel. His face went pale again. There is a pattern, he said quickly. The fluctuations match exact 3-minute intervals. Carl leaned in immediately. Show me. The technician pointed at the waveform display. Sharp repeating spikes. Even spacing. Controlled rhythm. Harris stared at it. That is not environmental interference. Carl finished the thought. That is human timing. I looked at the pattern longer. Something about it felt familiar. Not the code. The discipline behind it. Military precision. Structured pressure application. I reached into my pocket without thinking and pulled out the worn photograph from my cab visor. The same one from earlier. The younger technician saw it and froze. That symbol, he said quietly. On your duffel bag earlier. He pointed toward the trident insignia. Carl stepped closer and stared at it. Navy Special Warfare, he said slowly. The hospital lights flickered again as another pressure drop hit the system. But this time I saw it differently. Not random. Coordinated. I looked toward the dark ridge beyond the hospital windows where storm clouds kept rolling over the mountain. Someone up there was not just breaking the system. They were studying its response. Emma spoke softly behind me. What do we do if they are still controlling it? I closed the control panel slowly. Then I looked at the unstable gauge one last time. We stop reacting, I said, and we find the source. The system dropped another fraction lower as if it had heard me.